Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast. It's called It's Good to Talk, and it sure is good to talk. My name is John D. Healy. People might know me because I produced this book for my friend Tony McGurn, and that's how it all started. His life story since 1941 up until recently. It's available on Amazon. It's also on audio, and you can also get it on this podcast too. My sponsors are Liffey Van Lines, a moving company here in New York City, and they've been around longer than the New York City Marathon. So I always say when it comes to moving that Liffey do the lifting, nothing goes wrong, no doors fall off, because Liffey has no loose screws. I also want to give a shout out to IrishExaminerUSA.com, my good friend Paddy McCarthy, and there's lots of stuff in the newspaper this week if you want to follow the arts and entertainment. I had a quick glance. I see something coming up for Shane McGowan and Sinead O'Connor. That's going to be in Carnegie Hall. Check out the dates on that and see what's going on there, okay? There's also something coming up in traditional music, and there's also something coming up in the Irish Art Centre called Agreement, and I'm planning to get tickets for that. So check those out. So today I'm going to kind of go into do a future of what's going on for the year ahead, 2024. Last year in January, those of you that might remember, I made some predictions for you. I made some more predictions in Halloween. But let's go back to January, when I predicted that inflation was going to come down dramatically. At the time it was 8%, and now it's down almost 3%. The price of oil I also predicted was going to come down, so it's down now to about $74 a barrel. So how are we going looking forward? Well, looking forward, I think we'll have no recession for sure. Inflation should remain the same. It might edge a little lower. The 3% or 3.1% might edge more towards 2.5%. The oil is a little bit more precarious because of what's happening in the Red Sea. And it's not the price of oil, it's the price of shipping. So with the uncertainty in the Red Sea, which creates problems for oil getting from A to B, and shipping is a big problem. Any of you that know, if you buy something on the internet and it costs like $20, and all of a sudden by the time you buy it, it's $40 because the shipping is included. The Red Sea is over there near Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and Sudan. It borders a lot of countries, and Yemen as well. And those are all, I won't say all. I've been to Jordan, it's a beautiful country. I've been to the Gulf of Aqaba, and there's lots of good people and lots of good things. But, a few bad eggs can upset it. But if the oil has to be shipped on a longer route, that could be a problem for the price of oil eventually. All in all, though, the oil will remain below $80. And if we didn't have the troubles in the Red Sea, I could see it coming down to the mid-60, like $65 a barrel. And that in turn would bring down inflation actually more. Speaking of shipping, I wonder, do you know who created the steel containers that are used for shipping all over the world? Good question, you may ask. Okay, you may think it was China. Actually, no, his name was Malcolm McLean, an American guy. He only died here about 12 years ago in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. And he was known as the inventor creator, which changed worldwide shipping, of course, for sure, and the price of commodities, the price of goods that you get now in your local shop, or uptown, downtown, Fifth Avenue, wherever else. Those items were made cheaper by the sheer cost of reducing the price of shipping. Of course, the Suez Canal, which is a very important strategic invention as well, or creation, I suppose, because it joins Asia and Europe. And that also helped with the efficiency of shipping in terms of time, in terms of travel. Before the containers, and that Malcolm McLean came up with that invention because they're stacked 20 foot, 40 foot, and they can be stacked high. The only time I remember Malcolm McLean is when I see students coming to Liffey to rent storage units, and they bring all their stuff in plastic bags. Bags don't stack too well. You're not getting the best bang for your buck when it comes to that. So let's move on into the new year, and let's see what's happening. Let me check my quick notes here to see. We talked about January, I guess, already. Okay, well, the big thing this year in the world is more than half the world are having elections And every country you could imagine, there's going to be an election. And I will come to the USA near the end of this podcast because that's in November. But the big ones that are coming up is, of course, Russia. And I don't need cards to predict who's going to win that because Russia is a communist country and Mr. Putin will make sure that he's re-elected again. But there are a lot of big elections coming up all over the world. Let me see if I've made a note of any of them very, very briefly. China, Indonesia, big one too. So I'll move on from the elections, I guess, but let's hope that they're free and fair. It's more than half the world, 4.2 billion people will go to vote in elections this year. So February is going to be Happy New Year to the Year of the Dragon from China. The Year of the Dragon is significant in Chinese astrology. And let me see what years to see if you are born in the Year of the Dragon. And then I'm going to tell you something about you. So the years 1940, 52, 64, 1976, 1988, the year 2000, and the year 2012. So the dragons are pretty patient, studious, independent, and all of that. You'd have to do a bit more research on the dragon yourself. So what else is going on in February? Car racing in Bahrain, if you're into the car racing. Those races are arranged before the start of Ramadan. I think they end in one of the second races in Saudi Arabia, actually. And the Academy Awards will happen in LA. And if I didn't mention, February Super Bowl will be held in Vegas for the first time. Now, in April, we have a total eclipse of the sun. That's interesting. And also, it's going to be National Marmalade Week. Now, you definitely need to make a note of that, because who doesn't like marmalade? Well, some people. So that got us to, now we are at April, the total eclipse, marmalade, I told you that. The Eurovision will be held in Sweden for the 7th time. And there's also a marathon in China, if I didn't mention, to the Great Wall of China. And that's interesting too in itself. So I guess we're moving in through the year. So June, there's a global running day. And it's also the elections for the European Parliament, where 27 member states will elect various people from various countries. Ireland, we've been a part of this since the 70s, so I'm sure it'll create some excitement again. In July, NATO will be meeting in Washington, and the Republican Party will nominate its candidate for who's going to be the president representing the Republican Party when it comes to the election in November. I'm going to give you my prediction at the end of this podcast. My podcast is called It's Good to Talk. My name is John D. Healy. If you like my podcast, subscribe. There's over 100 podcasts out there. I do have some interesting ones coming up. Next week, I'll have a personal trainer. The following week, I will have a car expert to talk about electric cars. So watch out for those ones coming up. But you can go back and check out some of the previous ones too. What else is going on in July? The Olympics will start in Paris and at the Seine River in Paris. So it'll be a big day for President Macron. And it's also going to be the first time that breakdancing will be part of the Olympics. That's interesting. I didn't know that it was going to be included, but it is. August, the Democratic Party is having their pick for who will be president for them in Chicago. And the Paralympic Games will also begin in Paris. September, the United Nations Summit of the Future, which should be interesting. That will be taking place in September. And in October, guess who's going to be 100 years old? I know, maybe you thought he died. No, he didn't die yet. Jimmy Carter will be 100 years old in October. Now, I know you want me to move on to November and give my pick for who I think will be the next president of America, not just representing the Republicans, but if you're the president, you're supposed to represent all citizens of the United States. So, like a lot of elections in the world this year, a lot of the elections will be actually won by women. And USA will be no exception, no different. So if you're putting your money on with Paddy Power, I'm going to put my money on Nikki Haley. She's trailing Trump at the moment, but she will creep up on him slowly. I don't mean physically, I hope not. That would be exciting, I guess. But no, she's going to move up and take over and get into the White House. And you know what? The White House needs a woman, I think. Every house needs a woman sometimes, just to straighten things up a little bit. Most good executive leaders are women. So I think I covered a lot of stuff there. And let me see if anything else to add before I let you go. I did mention the Suez Canal and the shipping containers. And I did mention Liffey, and when it comes to moving, let Liffey do the lifting. When it comes to shipping, let Liffey do the shipping as well. Those containers are made from steel, but it's important that if you're using a moving company that's using a container, to check the container to make sure that there's no little hole in it created by rust, because you don't want seawater getting in there and you don't want fresh water getting in there, because when your beautiful shipment arrives back in Donegal and there was a hole in the container and now everything has to go to the junk luggers, which will be on my podcast in a few weeks. They don't have junk luggers in Donegal. They have knackers and tinkers that'll take away the junk for you. There's always a way, and there's always an angle. So my name is John D. Healy. My podcast is called It's Good to Talk. Other birthdays coming up this week in the locality. Tony King has a birthday in January. Kieran McAndrew, who is also going to be the president of the Mayo Society, has a birthday in January. And there's a few other people who have birthdays in January. And what they all have in common is they're all Capricorn. And they're in good company because Jesus was a Capricorn, okay? And I'm not saying that Tony King and Kieran McAndrew are close to Jesus. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But I always believe that Bono is God, because I know Bono is God. So check out the irishexaminerusa.com for all the latest entertainment news. And we will be transcribing some podcasts onto the newspaper next week. So look out for that, especially the one I did with the young man, Fionn MacArthur from Sligo, who's living on a boat, but he's living on a luxury boat. And I also will have one going on there with Adam Cardona, talking about the benefits of medical massage and regular massage for blood pressure, aches and pains and all that. But that'll be in the paper as well coming up. Thanks to the Irish Examiner USA for allowing me to transcribe podcasts onto that. So check out the newspaper, give it a read. It's a weekly newspaper. It covers more than just the arts and entertainment. It covers the local functions coming up in the Irish world of dinner dances and all that, but also politics in Northern Ireland, etc., and a little bit here in the United States of America. So I'm going to say Slán Abhaile, and I'll say goodbye for now. And if you'd like me to speak more Irish to you in the future, let me know, because sin scéal agus scéal eile. Ní léon tíntan mar de tíntan féin. Slán Abhaile, go slán go fóill. Slán leat.